Hello, thinkers. Welcome back to the Apex Mind and welcome back to another episode of the Apex Arena. We're back again with Professor Numskull. This will be the second time he's on the channel, and we're going to continue our conversation of ethics, starting with some sort of a agreement that we need to reach on why ethical theory is important and where does it even stem from. So as I was discussing pre-recording this, the empathy is central to ethics, and empathy by definition is being able to relate to oneself, other people, or other things. And in that sense, the sphere of ethics has always expanded. Firstly, I would assume as a very intelligent species, it was essentially just me and everything else. Then, as we uh, started to form proto society, like tribes and such, even back when we couldn't speak, then the sphere of empathy was for our tribes. Slowly, as society completely developed, there was a concept of rights, right? Things you get simply, or empathy, or understanding, or what do you call freedoms you get simply by the means of existing. Firstly, the elite of the society had them, kings and such, ministers and such. Then slowly the peasants got them. Then after the peasants got them, finally after long struggles in like the last 200 years or so, slaves also got it. And then ultimately the lowest rung of society, which was women, they also got the rights. But the point is, what I was telling Numskull here was that we have expanded empathy, yes, but empathy is centrally egocentric, right? The sphere of what you can identify as yourself increases when you start seeing other people similar to yourself, right? You, for example, if I see this blue bottle and myself as similar people, if I see Professor Numskull and me as similar people, what happens is then I can think what affects him will be how I will. It will affect me in a similar manner also. So it's a reflection of self love. It's a sort of masturbation of empathy, if that makes sense. So that is how ethics have evolved, and veganism, therefore, in this framework, would be the next extension of empathy, now moving beyond humans to animals. In that scenario, I want to ask Numskull, would you say that we as a society right now consider all human beings to be deserving of empathy? Because I believe that is firstly important. Only then we can move on to ethics and empathy for animals.
Oof. Okay, so there's a lot of layers to what I want to say to that.
Sure.
That's how. So I would agree to empathy being how we use ethics in our practical life, which is don't do unto other what you wouldn't want done unto thyself, something along those lines, right? A lot of people will agree to that form of empathy, and they would try to act with that. But I, for one, do not think that it forms like for capital E ethics. I don't think that forms a very good grounds.
Right.
Mostly because people are a lot of people even today actually people are not very aligned in that sense. In that, I'm sure like Indians actually face this a lot. Indians face a lot of racism,
Right.
like in the international diaspora. And then there's also like there's also racism against black people. There's also racism even against white people. There's
Yeah.
racism, right? So how does that happen? If we had already understood that we are all humans, we are all deserving of empathy because we are all really the same. The only thing is different is the skin color or maybe genetics. But we are, as a species, as a entity which has the capability of thinking, capability of reasoning, and a capability of feeling emotions, we are same. Well, we would feel empathy for them the same way, but that's not what happens. That's not how most people do it. Even in
Right.
fact, in my close circle, it's some of my friends who are like, you know, very I would so some of my friends that are homophobic,
Right, right.
they would go ahead and treat like a person who is homosexual as being less than a heterosexual, and
Mm-hmm.
that to me feels like not a far enough expansion
Yeah.
of empathy. That is at least not how far I go. So I don't think that it's a very good standard to use for capital E ethics, but it's a good
Right.
starting point for personal beliefs,
Ethics,
which
yeah.
is that yeah.
Yeah, the way that I understand it is there is a range of empathy that you can give one, right? And yeah, ethics or like human rights, like things of those nature, are effective on the minimum ethics that we afford to a human being. For example, even if someone is racist against, let's say, Indians, they say Indians are brown skinned, they're street shitters and whatever. Even that person wouldn't say that like harvest them like animals, right? They will still treat them
You would be
with
surprised.
a baseline of like human rights. So
You will
maybe
be
it's the
surprised.
okay.
You
I
will be surprised.
but
That's all I'm gonna say. You will be surprised. That's not. You seem to
but
not
would they?
understand the fact.
Yeah, I know like a lot of racist people, yes, do exist, but like knowing those people in real life, I've seen the way they would phrase things and the way that they would act is like very different. Even if they say the worst of
Yeah.
things, like I have had friends, certain friends, not friends anymore, which said that XYZ people need to be wiped off, right? Completely, and
Mhm.
like very horrible stuff. Those same people, when they will interact with those people, will still give them in action a baseline of human rights, if that makes sense. So that may be what we are trying to, in the empathetic framework, what we're trying to change is the minimum effective empathy that we can offer, which is just three, four rights, like the right to live, for example, or the right to exist. And maybe the point in this model is to keep expanding them as society progresses. So, like, we have human rights right now, like enforceable human rights post World War II. Now, the next step might be to go beyond humans. That is how I would understand it. Would you disagree with that?
Well, you could no. Well, you very well could go beyond humans, but the thing is, existence of right. The very funny thing about rights is that you only get rights by quashing other rights. Like it's very funny because when people talk about like um, it's a okay, it's somewhat difficult to explain
Sure.
because it's a very like vast array of things that I want to say here.
Yeah.
But if you're aware of people who would say that we want to be closer to say nature, we want to be close to how nature intended for us to be, right? And those kind of people would be like they'll tell you that we should not have so strict of a government. We should not allow so many things, and we should not have. Some people are even like anarchists. They're like they believe in like anarchy. They should not. You should not have a government at all, and humans should self-regulate. And the idea that they give you behind that is that you have the most freedom in anarchy, and under anarchy you don't owe anyone anything, and the
Right.
oppression by state, which state is state as a it's a hypothetical term, but the state is the one that oppresses the most, so state should be abolished and we should get
Yeah.
anarchy and that stuff. So a lot of the times when you do want to optimize for freedom, right, is that's what it is, right? That's what rights are, and that's what the idea of rights is to allow for as you said, right to exist, and then right to
Yes.
speech, freedom of speech, that is a very fundamental right, and then freedom of expression of faith, or freedom of expression of emotions in a way which doesn't hurt other people, right? That's come. So what that ends up doing though is it ends up creating it ends up suppressing other people in order to do that. So when you say that maybe the idea is to give people more rights, it's or well, not even give people more rights, to expand the diameter of the circle of the entities that come within the circle of rights, that the entities that are deserving of rights.
Right.
Um, the thing that you have to remember is the entities within this circle will be losing rights because of it. And because they will be losing rights because of it, there will come a tipping point where it will be no longer good enough, or no longer
Right.
better to do that, no longer better to expand further. So I don't necessarily see that as a goal, right? I think it's very much so debatable where the goal should lie.
What I
So
Yeah, what I kind of see in this is that as societies progress and our means of production, our means of providing to the people, it increases. Uh, Correlated to that is the increase in the notion that more people should get rights or human rights. For
yes,
example, post the Industrial Revolution, when everything became so easy to produce, the requirement for slavery became a luxury more so than a requirement. And hence, over time, we were able to get rid of it because people are like, yeah, it doesn't necessarily impact my standard of living that much. So maybe the idea with veganism, therefore, would just be that, right? That now there are equal, what do you call, supplements, or more so substitutes for the products and the foods that you used to eat, and therefore now you can afford to give rights to a
moving
larger
right.
subset of beings, this including animals.
Sure, sure.
Right.
I think like at least like the ethical movement of veganism, I think that could be the basis for that. Um, I don't necessarily know if I agree with the ethics of veganism sometimes, but for the most part, for me, it's because I love animals and I don't want to hurt them. And the second part as well, it also hurts humans, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can tell a human that if they don't love animals, then they are not deserving of being called a human, right? Um, and that's because I understand the fact that a lot of the people have difficulty, like even they have difficulty loving humans. So really, it becomes like a very debilitating subject for me to balance out where to put personal preferences, like because I don't want personal preferences to cloud my judgment.
Yeah.
So it becomes very difficult for me to where do I place the needle, like what is to be considered cruel and what is not to be considered cruel. And so I tend to not go into too many ethics for me. I just raise like the
I
I when my
Yeah.
personal opinion is asked, I talk about my how I see it, and when it's about ethics, I tend to. I have in the past given the vegan ethics answer, but I found that I find it very hard to defend sometimes. And
Honestly,
um,
yeah,
yeah,
honestly, same. There is a argument I once gave to like a vegan creator. I'm not sure if why these people, at least in the vegan movement, do not use that argument. Uh, Ethics, in my understanding, was based on again the two biological drivers, which is survival and reproduction, right? And that is how we started becoming more compassionate to the people around us, forming tribes, and that has led to increased survival rates, increased reproduction rates. So my argument for veganism, therefore, would be that now that we're in a position where our actions affect the planet as a whole, which directly impacts our survival in the future, therefore, if veganism can lead to us saving the planet, then veganism will be ethical because it will lead to our long term survival.
yeah,
At least that was the
yeah.
idea, but I don't think
Well, yeah.
anyone
So
usually phrases it
again,
that way.
Yeah, a lot of, well, the part of the reason for that is because if you are aware of the carnist, well, the anti-vegan movement, just like there's a vegan movement, there's an anti-vegan movement, and the anti-vegan movement is just nuts. I I come across a few videos of theirs, and it's always just the most random, like trying to fear monger people into stuff, or it's just hateful comments. So for example, there was this one video I came across which was a person showing like a little lamb chops, and
Right.
like in looking in the camera and being like, this little lamb here wants to become like his older brother Carl, who's on the table there. And I was like, again, personally, I was disgusted, and I was like, what purpose is this meant to serve? What are you even trying to do here?
All the based
So it
content
ends up
essentially.
being, yeah, code and
Because
code based, like alpha male learner, that like
Y- I
BS
do wonder
mentality.
sometimes, and there is this like the based movement is essentially the contrarian movement for any progressive movement, right? If you, whatever is
Yeah.
the popular smart consensus on thing, if you can say the dumb equivalent of it, and you can say that with confidence, that is considered to be very manly or based. And it's in
Yeah.
everything. It's in politics, it's in like human rights, it's in like
Yeah.
there, I don't think there is a singular field where there isn't. Hell, even for philosophy, there is the anti-intellectual movement where they're like, stop thinking, just like do shit. Or what are your ethical arguments going to do if I'm going to simply come and punch you in the face? That sort of thing. I
Yeah.
think it's probably just a is this a response to, I like it because it shows there is a, I don't know, this is sort of abstract. You know about the hedonic treadmill, right? Or any sort of treadmill. It is essentially the body and the mind, they want to stay at a stable point. And if you push them
Mhm.
in any direction too much, they want to return to baseline. Even when you start exercising, you just
Yeah.
don't want to exercise anymore. If you already are exercising,
Yeah.
you don't want to stop exercising. Whatever state currently is, your brain wants to be there. So when these movements start coming up in these people's feeds, when people start making them want to change, this is that force of the body and the mind to resist change in order to remain at a stable baseline. I think that is probably the definition of the base movement across
Yeah.
every field whatsoever.
Yeah. Honestly, I agree. I agree to that. Yeah. In fact, I talk about that a lot of times as well. But anytime I'm like discussing philosophy and this kind of topic comes up, I do try to mention that we should try not to fall in that trap.
I actually
Um,
like it. I think it's very important for our advancement, the base movement, simply because it gives a sort of dialectical tension, right? I
it
need
does do
another
that.
party which is antithetical to my point of view. Only then synthesis can happen, and we can go beyond the discussion that
I
we're having.
I tend to like it when they try to at least reason with stuff. For example, I know like so some of the good points of being like some of the good points of anti-vegan diet are, for example, it's difficult to get like every essential nutrient in veganism. Not entirely impossible, but for example, B12 and omega 3s are two things which are they're micronutrients, and they're are required in trace amounts, but they are difficult to get, to say the least, in the vegan diet. So when they talk about that, or when they talk about how if we were hunting instead of animal farming, that would be more ethical. And I do think that those points hold value at the very least. Those points have credibility, to say the
Right.
least. But I don't like it when people just go, ha ha, I'm just gonna dunk on you. I'm gonna not listen to anything you're saying because I'm so like Sigma. I'm not gonna I don't care. Like it's just what are you even trying to do? Why
It's
are we having this conversation then?
it's the funniest thing
So
ever. Because
well, yeah, sometimes it's funny. It
you
is
actually,
funny
I
when
have
they
personally I have changed the minds like on certain topics of these people also, and the way that you do it is again the same thing, right? A dialectical tension can only exist when you have an opposing force with you. So if they go dumb, you go dumber. You have to match their freak in a sense. Only then they can like do something for their like. If they're like, okay, what about your philosophy? I can come punch you in the face. You can simply say that, okay, this is my address, come punch me in the face, I am ready with my whatever, like vegan smoothie to beat the shit out of you, something like that.
Yeah. No, yeah,
When you
I
match
do.
there, yeah, it's
I do understand that. It's like I remember like once I was just like, um, yeah, go ahead. Like I just go like cry about it or something like that. I yeah, it's I
it
do
kind of
understand your point.
yeah, kind of, I think in a sense it also happened recently in a short I posted just today, in which I was basically talking about Abrahamic religions and how they look down on pagans, right? And even within their own theology it wouldn't make sense to look down on pagans, because if their god, if the world is a reflection of their god, or if the world is an aspect of god, then worshipping anything within it would still be worshipping god. So it doesn't make sense to shun
Mhm.
pagans. I got like a comment which was like, oh, your gods, like they say to drink piss or whatever, and you are this, you are that, should have read the religion's book. He's like gave out a couple of abuses.
Yeah,
The only reply I had to that was that, huh, so this is the ethics that your religion has taught you. Just that. I would not comment on anything else, because like uh, just sometimes showing them the mirror by either humor or simply by showing them the mirror, that is what I did, right? Okay, this is the ethics which led you to make this kind
mm,
of a comment. That is sometimes enough. I don't
yeah,
need to defend XYZ thing. With all of these people, like
yeah.
I like the anti-vegan crowd simply because if they would not exist, we would have a lot of progress, yes, but we would
We would not
have
have a
no sense of
dialectic.
ethics. We won't have a sense of ethics either. We wouldn't know when to stop. We wouldn't know
Yeah,
why we are doing what we are doing. We'll simply do because
yeah,
some people decided in their mind that this is ethical, and then they started enforcing, and because we agreed with them, we simply started following them without ever critically examining them. It is only when someone can come in to punch me in the face can I learn to defend and know my own technique.
true. That is true. But I do like it more when the punches are like I do like it more when it's more balanced,
Yeah, I mean, if they talk
right? So
intellectually, that's best for you
it's
also.
like yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I like it.
So
I think it's just a matter of if someone is resorting to, okay, I'll do it because I'm Sigma, then you know, and they're
yeah.
admitting it, like it's emotional. So you cannot talk about emotions, because I think you have already broken their layer of intellectualism, and now you're down to emotions, which is like just one step away from actual change happening.
Well, yeah, but you can't change emotions because emotions are very personal in the sense that whatever I feel, you you may feel something in the proximity, but you won't feel the exact same thing. And whatever you feel, I can feel something in the proximity, but I won't feel the exact same thing.
Yeah,
So, given that,
yeah.
I can't really tell them to change their emotions, but I can give them logic, and that's what I try to do. And I can give them my emotions. I can tell them how I feel. So that's also something I do.
Interesting.
But under any case, we haven't even started the debate
Yeah,
on the actual topics
ethics.
that we
Yeah,
agreed on.
yeah, start. Let's just start that, right?
Okay. So what we wanted to debate about today, like there was two topics. The one was the role of an individual in a democratic society, and the second part was just how we can. Uh, let me see how I exactly worded it because I did send it to you in a. properly worded manner here. Oops. Where was it? Each. Okay. Consequentialism, yeah, consequentialism with a self-correction as a basis for capital M morals and capital E ethics.
Sure.
Okay, so yeah, this was something that we were discussing last time as well, and um, we'll get to that. But first, let's talk about social structures and responsibilities of individuals
Sure.
in democratic societies. Um, what I generally tend to say for a democratic society is that because individuals have the power to regulate the state as they want it to, they also share the equal responsibility of driving the state in the direction they want to see it go. So, if you remember last time, you told me that, you think it's the responsibility of the capitalists or, the business owners
Yeah.
to make a vegan movement more accessible to the public.
Yes.
The reason I don't think that's true is because you don't live in an imperialist society. You live in a democratic society, which is to say that you have, in terms of steering the society, in terms of steering the society, so long as you have enough financial means to get even like a to get a vegan diet, it is your responsibility
Okay.
as a part of the society to become a part of the change if you want to see the change happen in the society, right?
Right.
If okay, if you're below the means of becoming a part of the change, that's a different story. And the biggest reason for that is because it's even within a society, it's not like everyone is always going to be capable of becoming a part of change, and that strictly does not mean that they become outcast from the society, because that's how we formed our societies. We formed our societies in order to strengthen the group as well as the individual. That's the point, is not just to give power to a single individual, or not just to give power to every individual over the single person. Like, both of them are bad. Hyper individualism, and hyper individualism being like something that would be in like something like anarchy, and hyper like collectivism, which is something like, um, you know we're always going to do the same thing, you're all going to be bound together, the same thing. That's also bad, because you need to have both. You need to have freedom and you need to have some rules. And the reason for that was because we wanted an optimal society for the group as well as the individual. So sometimes if it's not viable, then it's understandable. But as soon as it does become viable, you have to become a part of the change, because if you don't, then society, the progress will slow down. And because the progress will slow down, it will, for those who are even below you, for those who are even below your means,
Right.
it will slow down the reach of the movement to them as well. Because if you change, you have the power to influence those in the same economic sphere as you, right? For example, your family, your friends, and possibly if you marry and have children, you will affect the behaviors of these people, right? You yourself changing, and you changing behaviors of these people. What this would do is this would create a base for people who are even lower
Right.
to get up to this space as well, right? So that is how I see it, is that if you are capable and if you support a movement, you join it. In a democratic society, unless everyone actively does that, the democratic society will stall and it will not progress as fast as it's supposed to.
Right. Uh, while politically, we are supposedly in a democratic society because the way that we're choosing our candidates and the way that, like, structures of government ruling is happening is basis on our collective voting or our collective decision. Uh, the reality of the matter is that even the politics of a society is run by its economics, and its
Mhm.
economics is ultimately run by the people who uh, hold the means of production more so than the people who are at the bottom. I would say the balance or the share of power would be more equal among these two sections of society uh, in a place where demand cannot be altered by the same people. How do people usually decide these days? How does the modern man decide what they want to eat, or what they want to consume, or what they want to wear? I think a lot of it is based on what other people are saying, firstly, and a lot of it is also
Mhm.
based on what they see on social media. Our desires and our decisions are influenced by what we consume, and the people who are at the top, so to speak, who hold the means of productions, are also the people who are directly or indirectly uh, controlling these inputs that an individual gets. Right, they decide what the algorithm shows, they decide what is popular, they decide where the investors put the money in, and what meta shows and all of that. And therefore, if the mind of every single individual is even 20% controlled by what is being shown, that is more than enough for a change to happen. So yes, while technically in a theoretical democratic society these two sections would be of equal power, the reality of the matter is four people on the top are going to be more powerful than thousands of people in the bottom, because they can arbitrarily decide, okay, I want to sell this product now, and I can affect the demand for it via advertisements, via billboards, via social media influencers, via investing in certain things and making sure that is more profitable. So assume in there are two scenarios. One scenario is the out of, let's say, 100 people or 1000 people in society, 200 want to become vegan, right? The change will happen.
Mhm.
Yes, vegan products will become easier over time. But let's say out of 4 people at the top, one of them really wants to push his vegan products to get maximum profit. I believe, and I am sure you will also agree, then at that moment, that change will happen almost instantaneously. Quickly, you'll see a lot
Yes.
more people adopting vegan products. A
Yes,
great
that is true.
example of this is, if you remember back when COVID was a new thing, and everything had to shut
Mhm.
down because of COVID. Immediately the flora and fauna of Antarctic and Arctic, they started like going back to the way they were. Things started becoming healthy, air pollution stopped, and now this is something that has been pushed onto the common people for god knows how long. Right, do not use your air conditioners, do not open your refrigerators too long, do not drive your car a certain way. I am not claiming that those actions do not affect the environment, but the capacity at which not even a singular person, the totality of people would affect the environment is minuscule as compared to the factories that are being run. Say, if
Yeah.
you can look up the history of carbon footprint, that was developed somewhere in the European Union because they wanted to shift the blame to the common masses. Oh, you use plastics, you are bad, bro. I use plastics because shopkeepers make it available, because it is available to them in supply chain, and the reason is you. It's all you at the end of the day, right? This is a common thing.
Yeah.
In pollution, or like the climate change, for example, it's all more or less the responsibility of the elite. Uh, mm, Even the blame shifting is how they can get the eye away from them. I believe it's on
Yeah.
with veganism. It's almost antithetical, because the more you focus on the average person, the more time and energy you spend reaching out to people. You know how hard it is to convert or even convince one person to drop milk. Hell, you're still trying with me, right? Drop consuming milk. So so imagine the amount of effort it takes to convert these many people compared to if you could just completely focus on the elites, and if they change their mind, it will be an overnight thing. I will stop drinking animal milk if it is like not available as much. I'll stop drinking it if veganism sorry, or vegan milk is more advertised. If
Abundant. Yeah.
yeah, it's, if it is cheaper, all of those things are in the hands of the elite. I mean, the while theoretically every person should contribute to society and changing collectively must mean the change of society, uh, the reality of the matter is it's simply the people holding the means of production which can make any real change. It is only when they decide that they need more profits, the only thing that you can do is try and affect their bottom line a little. You'll affect their profits just a little bit so that they change their mind and change the production. But I believe that is
Yeah.
a long road to you'll keep fighting people on drinking milk for the next century, and maybe there will be a change. But if you can convince these people in like 2 years, the change will be almost immediate. So that is why I believe it's like should be a focus to change the rich and influential people, the people who hold the means of production.
Okay. You know what's funny?
Yeah.
Um, a anti-vegan friend of mine. Well, not really anti-vegan in the sense that they are anti to my ideology or to the way I do things, but they think that the elites are the one who are trying to push veganism, and they try to make up things about why they don't want to go vegan, especially in defiance of the elites. Um, it's just so funny to me. But I
Elites
do
are,
agree with your point that
yeah,
if the elites did try to make everyone vegan, it would go much faster. But I don't think it's as black and white as you make it out to be. Mainly because, yes, it is true that if the elites wanted to advertise something and they wanted to do something, it it would have a very easy chain. It would be like a very easy thing to trickle down.
yeah.
But then you're ignoring the fact that the masses do have the capability of controlling these people. So, for example, if you remember, very recently, in fact, in Nepal, they
Yeah, the
overthrew
whole,
the government,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the
There
reason for
is,
that was because the government had a lot of corruption, and they didn't like the government,
I
right?
mean, there are like a couple of theories also floating around that this was a job of certain countries trying to, because
Yeah,
a lot of these so-called revolutions by the people have been happening a lot recently across South Asia. It's almost a similar sort of new ruler is being put forward who is favorable to a certain country's philosophies. So that's a common thread. That is why I don't like. The reason I don't even go into politics on this channel is just because I might as well get a ban
yeah,
if I
that
start
is yeah,
noticing too much.
that is true.
Yeah. So
But
there's that.
well,
But do you believe that this is
there is
this
that.
is a sort of like at least not a wasted effort, but at least an ineffective method to try and convince more people as compared to just like convincing the elite that
It's
this
a
is
less
going to be more
effective
profitable?
method. It is less effective for sure. But
There.
then again, I don't have control of the elite, though, right?
Yeah.
I can do what is in my power. And what is in my power is convincing the people that I do know. If I did know a person who was like elite, I would go up to them and I would convince them that, veganism will be more profitable for you because these reasons. And it's how you could do this and you could do that. But to me, that's just I don't know elites. I am not in direct contact with them, so can't really do much.
I mean,
That said, what I can do is I can make viable means for people around me and for people like yourself. And I could tell you how you could incorporate more vegan products and over time switch to veganism. I don't think people go from being non-vegan to vegan in like an instant. Even I have a transit. I am in the transition phase right now, actually. So it's understandable, right?
Right.
But all I want to do is I want to encourage you to become more and more vegan and get more people to become more vegan. And when that happens, uh, when, for example, let's say you have like you have like five friends, and you have
Yeah.
five, six friends like want to go vegan. What you can do is you can hire. I believe there's like a culture of maids in India,
There
or
is.
like maids and servants. Yeah, you could get like a person to do that. If you remember, I sent you the recipe for cashew milk. You don't have to do anything. You just have to soak it and you have to blend it. But even if you weren't doing that, even if you were doing something like soy milk, for example, soy milk is like you soak it, you boil it, and then you blend it, and you strain it. There's four, 5 steps. You can get a person to do that for you, and
Right.
they could deliver it to you every day, and you could pay them, right? And that would still be cheaper than milk. So that is what I try to do for people. Is I try to give them alternatives in what they can do. I try to focus more on what I and what the person that I'm talking to can do, rather than being ambitious about how I could go up to the elite and I could challenge them. Because
I mean,
at
you
the
don't
end of the
necessarily have to
day,
challenge them. It's only a matter of convincing them that this is the more
yeah,
profitable
convince them.
option for them. They'll get more money through this. That is all you need to do to convince them. There was anime, a really good anime. I recommend everyone to watch it. It's a orb on the movements of the earth. It is about the history of heliocentrism and how that
Yeah,
was firstly discouraged by the church, and they used to like off people who used to research it. They used to burn all the
yeah.
researches, and ultimately what almost got the change happen is when one of the characters convinced the head of the church that this is going to be more profitable, this is going to mint him more money, and he was like, sure, then I can just reinterpret the passages to mean that heliocentrism is right. Fun, win-win. I earn more money, everyone is happy. So with the elites, it's
Great.
simpler, right? You can be like, bro, listen to me. You produce meat. This is your bottom line. If you start doing
Yeah,
this in the next 5 years, your bottom line will triple. These are the figures. This is the accounting. This is how you're going to do it. Here you go. Just that pitch deck, right? You have pitch decks because I believe
yeah,
vegans are everywhere, like across different spectrums. Maybe you don't know
yes,
an elite person. Maybe what you can do is you can make a simple YouTube video that might go viral, that might catch their attention, or you
yeah.
can start having conversations among vegans and figure out, because there will be someone who will have a maybe an indirect connection somehow to get to them, and you convince them. If they change is immediate. The thing is
Yes.
with the it's just that, right? You have to divorce ethics from it, honestly. The only way for an ethical revolution to happen is when you start divorcing ethics from it. Slavery did not happen because we suddenly developed empathy for the slaves. It happened because like the factors were all there, that it was economically viable and everything. Only then that change
Well,
happened.
we did have empathy for slaves. It was okay. This is I don't.
I don't
I'm
think
gonna
there
get.
was
I'm
a
gonna get
sudden
into it.
awakening of empathy that happened collectively among people. I think when all the other factors lined up, then only the empathy was
Yeah,
effective enough that like slavery could be abolished. Before that, it was,
that is
no
true.
big deal. So
Yeah.
make it like, if people are controlling economies, and economies are like ultimately what is resulting in people's dietary habits, like get to the people who are controlling the economies. It's fine. See, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to convince the ground people. I'm simply saying it's a more efficient method if you want to bring about change, to convince the people who control all the profits. It's easy, it's simple. Okay,
That is
maybe
true.
not easy, but it's more efficient, right? If every vegan collectively like thinks upon this, and they make think tanks on the basis of this, maybe they like they make startups. You can try making startups, right? You produce vegan products and you can convince the investor that this is very profitable, because see, I can get so much more content out of it, and I can content in the sense of food products, and I can be like, this is more healthy,
Yeah.
this is more natural, this is vegetable, so it is not saturated fats. And you can make your own company. You can mint enough money, and as investors start investing in more, your competitors that are the animal industry, they'll be like, okay, maybe we need to make the change also. This is the new meta. That is how AI was adopted also, right? It's because one or two companies
Yeah.
started and everyone just jumped on the bandwagon. So create a bandwagon,
Yeah.
mint money for yourself, and make sure that other people want to mint money from that as well.
So funny enough, that is something that I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to raise money. Well, I'm not going to go and ask for investors, but just saving some parts from a job and trying to get some, vegan startup going. And the primary idea is that if I can help more people at a cheaper rate
Yeah.
than the animal industry, that will convince a lot of people to
Uh,
come on over.
I feel like that's
And
precisely the right strategy. Like,
yeah,
work on like influencing the logistics, whether it's from here
yes,
or there. Just like try and make it so it's more
yeah,
accessible, it's cheaper. That's those are if the two things
yeah.
are sorted, everything else will
I
simply fall
already
into
did
place.
tell you. I already did tell you how it is cheaper,
It is cheaper,
but I,
but
I
again,
also
like,
for it.
accessibility is not simply about the availability of resources. It is also about how easy it is to do, right?
Yes,
If I can simply walk down my street, two houses, and I can get a milk product, that is infinitely more
yeah,
easier for me than having to produce vegan milk. Only someone who's extremely pinchy about money will not take that into consideration, right? Because it takes time and effort that you can like
it
spend
does.
in other things also. So that for the average person, that is all there is. People construct emotions, people construct ethics, people construct things. I don't think if I were to take a random group of 100 Indians, even 99 would be very religious. No, they will be just religious enough that they do the rituals, that you don't disrespect their gods, but otherwise they don't necessarily
Yeah,
actually care about religion. So you make the I think economics should be the focus of uh, any movement, whether it is political, whether it is anything else.
I can agree with that. I can see how that can work. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Um.
when it comes to philosophy, whether or not it is ethical, then the argument is completely different, right? What the world is on the basis of economics, and the what the world could be or should be, logically speaking, that is ethics. Nobody really cares about ethics, like practically
In
speaking.
the real world, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but we do. We philosophize, we do. And we are like, okay, one
Correct.
day you're going to believe the right thing. Just wait for it. When it is economically viable anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess we do agree to some degree that we do need change. We do want to. Um, it is good to at least, well, convincing the elites, of course, is good. Um, the main reason why I think convincing people on the ground is good is because the people on the ground also hold actually a lot more power than they realize. Okay, here's the funny thing: the issue with people on ground is that a lot of the people, it's not that they don't have power, it's just that they choose to, or well, not even they choose to, they just don't realize that they do, right? Um, and the reason for that is very simply explained by, okay, if you don't want to look at something like Nepal, which, I mean, yeah, you could say that even if it was driven by like certain politically motivated factor, it was still done by the people of Nepal. It was still the people of Nepal who, at
They
the
were
end of the day,
capable of doing
did
it,
it.
even if it
They
was
were
done.
capable of doing it, even if, yeah, they were capable of doing it by themselves, even if it was driven by a certain other factor. And it's essential to realize that if only the top pushes something and the bottom does not agree with it, we would go more towards an imperialist framework, and we would go more towards like a king kind of a framework where you have like oligarchical framework.
Yeah. which I
So
I personally believe practically does exist across the world. It's just simply that
yes,
they just can't actively say that.
it
They
does
have to
exist.
pretend to say something else, even though they're acting like oligarchs. Same thing in my country, same thing across every country. They just push. For example,
Yeah,
recently we had a switch to E20, in which the gas, petrol, it is diluted by 20% now. We are getting
yeah,
20% ethanol blended petrol. It was
yeah.
not voted upon. It was randomly forced upon us. Our cars and our vehicles are not supportive of it if we did not buy them in the last 2 years. So, and it
Yeah.
will get corrosive. It will cause damage to the engine. It will make it so that the mileage we get out of the vehicle is also lesser. And yet, we cannot change it. We cannot vote on it. We cannot do anything about it. It just was randomly forced upon us, and no, like beyond just a booklet, no explanation was given, and the booklet contradicts itself, and there is no answer coming for us whatsoever. When we asked the minister why that happened, the minister was like, for whoever is disagreeing with this decision is anti-national.
Yeah, that is generally how it goes.
If I could have convinced that
With like,
minister that no, 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 don't blend with petrol, it will be more profitable for you. He'll be like, sure, like I won't do blending. It would have, I
yeah,
mean, that is the practical reality of the world. We are trying to construct a system in which the average person is also listened to. But it's difficult because, again, we are the only reason our society exists is because we want to share resources and survive together. So, the construction of power is always going to be whoever holds the most resources or imagined power is the one who is more listened to, whose interests matter more than the interest of people who don't hold any resources or any power.
yeah.
So there is that. But no,
That is
yeah, go ahead.
that is true. I am not going to tell you that it isn't. In terms of like a practical reality, I I also can't say much. I don't you know, but it is to some degree
Yeah.
true. I just think that we need to get away from it if we want to have a more constructive society. So that's another part of why I think that we should start a more bottom-up movement. Is when you have bottom-up movements, they do undermine oligarchs, and the reason they undermine oligarchs is because
They're forced to
it
change.
gives it gives people the idea, it gives people the sense that they are capable of change, and that is what allows for um,
So if
these people to even control more topics.
and that will help in every sort of movement, right? It doesn't have to be veganism. It will
Yes,
be across every movement. So shouldn't
yes,
our like main focus
yes.
be to firstly develop a sense within people that you can make a change if you try to?
Most definitely, yes. Most definitely, yes. In fact, I was going to tell you that. I do not remember why I didn't, but I was going to tell you that it's one of the reasons why I love your channel, is because I realized that in India, because the population is so much, a lot of the people just think that, well, what am I going to do? Because here's the funny thing: the common person thinks that their power is diluted because of the population,
Right.
which is just the opposite of what it is. Common person's power is amplified because of the population. If you can convince the people around you, if you can get people around you to agree with you and to move on to something, you will win,
Yeah,
right?
because you have
If
more
if you can
hands
go
to
far
punch.
enough. Yeah, you have more, exactly. Exactly. You have more hands to punch. So it's and it's really sad that people don't realize this. So I really like your channel because you are going ahead and you're doing something which I think empowers one in order to realize what changes need to be made and how I could go about them and how I could get people around me to go about them. Um, and I really, really respect your channel because of that, and especially needed in India because people have just accepted that the world is the way it is.
It's a very
and
passive country at
they're
this
not gonna.
point, honestly. I mean,
Yeah,
for an
it's
average Indian.
passive. It's passive in terms of intellectualism. In like,
In all,
I don't want to form my own.
I would say it's like
Not in
apparent
terms of
all
actions.
spheres of life. Like if I move, let's say I go to my gym and I walk to my gym, right? I see random things that people don't want to be bothered by. If there is, uh,
Yeah.
let's say there is like a problem in the street, like there is a big pothole, and you say that, oh, all you
Mhm.
need to do is like call the Nagar Nigam department, complain, and maybe they'll change. And people will be like, "Eh, chalta hai, this is fine, we're okay with it." So this chalta hai attitude is probably the problem of the country. The spiritual movement of acceptance was not supposed to be this, that people have in a
Yeah.
place misinterpreted, in a sense that in practice people just adjust, and you don't
Yeah.
actually adjust if you have a sense of uh, individuality which stems from critical thinking. People, the refusal to think is a symptom of a bigger problem, which is the passivity of existence in the Indian mind. They will just
Yeah.
exist and work and do according to wherever the wind takes them. It doesn't have to be anything. So it's
Yeah.
and I think it to an extent it does I mean the large population is to play a role in the average person's psyche. uh, it shouldn't,
Mhm.
but it does. When you see many people suffer, the peer effect is very strong within your mind to simply do the same thing. It's hard to think individually, and that is the reason the only thing that I preach on the channel is don't do anything. I don't want you to uh, do any specific thing, go for any specific movement. Just think. Whatever thought comes to you, just stick to it. Do not erase it. Ask more questions and keep thinking. You'll see the patterns. Once you start seeing the patterns, the innate inner sense to do something will automatically come, and it will be dependent on your temperament, on your ethics, but you will take a shift from passivity to an active existence just by actively thinking. You just do one thing actively and everything else falls in place. Thinking is, I think, central to being a human being. So my criterion, and it is very harsh uh, in tone at least, is that if you don't think, you do not deserve the title of a human being, because it's the essence of being a human. Just like the essence of being a dog might be to bark, the essence of being a kind of bird that can fly is to fly. That is what defines you. So a human being is defined by their ability to think. If you do not exercise that, then as they say in the, what do you call, tantric tradition, you're a pashu or an animal.
Yeah. Functionally as good as an
Yeah,
animal.
at least not a human being. You become whatever you want to. A rock is also fine.
Sure.
Yeah.
Um, I I do find that harsh, but I do see where you're coming from. So yeah, for the most part, I'll just say that I hope that more and more people just start doing what you're saying, and I think that would be ideal for society if we started thinking and we started talking more as humans. We started doing more for ourselves and our loved ones and stuff like that. We would make a much better society
In
than
the
the oligarchical
Yeah,
kind we
in the
have right now.
beginning of the channel, there was a conflict that happened in the last year between India and Pakistan, where like almost a
Mhm.
warlike situation come forward. Like
Yeah.
luckily we had a de-escalation. When I covered that topic on the channel once, uh, I cleared out to people that in this situation, if you're an Indian, you can only be one of two people. Either you're someone who wants to stand for truth, who he wants to find out what is it that actually happened and who is responsible for what. then practice that. But if you're someone, let's say, who wants my country to win, right? Our country should win. We should win the social media wars. Everything should be about our victory. Uh, that we ought to through any means whatsoever, right? By deception, by doing whatever you want to win, even that is fine. I'm not here to judge your motives, but I want you to see this will be the way that you are going to do this. This 5 step way is the way that you do this. But be honest with yourself is what your goals is. Be honest with yourself what you want to do, and think how to do it. I believe, irregardless of whatever you're trying to achieve, and like, because that is the reason I don't encourage, at least don't I don't practice a lot of moral judgment, so to speak, is because you do whatever you want to do, man. That's like the nature of society. But be thorough about it. Just don't do it because someone else told you. Do it because you want to do it and you're thorough about it. That's all.
Yeah, I can call that fair. I also see how that will offend people though.
It's
Um,
fine. I mean, luckily no one got offended over that. People got offended over the video I made about One Piece. So anime people were a lot more, what do you call,
oh,
offended
God damn.
than political people, surprisingly.
That is okay.
Yeah. At least I mean, the anime people are more clear on what they like and what they don't like, I guess.
Fair.
It's easy to think and easy to be rational when you are talking about a fictionalized universe. That is where most people practice
True.
their critical thinking. In the real world, when your thinking might have stakes, you want to pass off that responsibility to someone else. That is the reason the most
Yeah.
common and the most practiced form of any religion or any god is to take God as an authority who decides everything, who gives out all the morality, and who is basically a second parent to you.
Not even a second parent. They're like your master. It's so funny. You're my master. I am your slave. That's the kind of the motto of like every single Abrahamic religion, and even I believe even in like certain branches of Hinduism that exists
And at
in
least
like
the whole bhakti movement is because love God, God is going to decide, and like follow God's teachings and so.
yeah.
But like in India, it's more so loving God rather than like the strict enforcement of like the Ten Commandments within Abrahamic religions, right? That I mean, I read the Quran once, like very intense stuff. So it starts off
Yeah,
very
Quran
intensely.
is
It's like,
pretty.
do this, all the non-believers are this, and everyone is this, they'll go to hell. So that kind of thing I have yet to find in any of the different Hindu texts that I've read to. But people do have a similar sort of attitude
Yeah,
in
in
practice.
text.
In practice, it is different.
Yeah, yeah. In practice, that I was talking about in practice, in the sense that I know some Hindu people who are like just very interesting um, in their ideas. Like, I guess not even. I guess they are like Hindu, but I guess the strictness comes more from their belief in like what is the term, astrology,
Ah,
because
got it.
like they're like very far into astrology. Um, yeah, I find it very weird.
I mean,
But under
astrology is
any
very
circumstance,
deterministic, but yeah. It's a.
yeah,
I
yeah,
like researched astrology for a bit, and I will just say that we don't quite understand it, at least as like outsiders to the system, as deeply as it goes. But most, and by most I mean 99.99% of even the astrologers don't quite get it because it is too complex for their understanding. You know how people go into the gym and then they have random ass notion that, okay, if you do this amount of volume, this amount of muscle will grow. No, a lot of it is very technical and you won't get it by just practicing it a little. Same with most astrologers. That is why in practice it is mostly hogwash, right? But the system is too deep and like too methodical to simply say that it itself is hogwash. It does deserve a deeper look into it. Whether or not you believe it is fine, you can just go into it, see what it is all about.
deeper look is
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
A deeper look is fine, but like judging people immediately, I do find it harsh to judge people immediately based on their birth date. and
Oh,
putting them
oh,
into
oh,
boxes.
you're talking about even the okay, so not even the proper planetary configurations astrology, but more so just the random astrology that 12 zodiac signs, as if there are only 12 sorts of people across the world.
Yeah,
No, no,
yeah.
that's
That's just
what do you call?
hogwash.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what do you call? A liberal's way of racism, I would say. That is how you
I
just
wouldn't call it liberal. I wouldn't call it liberal, but it is interesting to say the least. I don't know.
the modern man's allowed racism
Yeah,
is through zodiac.
yeah. I would call that. I would call it zodiacism.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, just a second. I'm like going to the washroom. Give me 2 minutes. I'll pause the recording.
sure.
Okay, I'm back.
I'll come back.
Okay, let's get back on topic. We
Um,
like go on a lot of tangents.
true. Okay.
So,
So
so I guess with on the democratic thing, the the agreement that we have here is that the average person has a lot more power than they realize, and
yes,
that secondly, change is mostly enforceable top to bottom, but that does not mean that bottom up change cannot take place. In fact, that should be what we should move towards, in which change always happens bottom to
yes,
top.
yes.
That is what we agree
That
upon, I
is the
guess.
ideal. That is the ideal world. That if we lived in an ideal world, bottom top change would be
Yeah, and we
the
should always
best.
work towards making our society more and more utopian or ideal.
Yes,
We
I don't know
have,
utopian, but more and more ideal. The utopias aren't ideal.
I mean, theoretically they're ideal, right? We try to move towards them. It's not that it's possible.
Well,
Like,
okay, define utopia. Can you define utopia?
it's the Abrahamic God version of a society. All loving, all good, everything is nice. Everyone is happy, everyone gets all everything.
No, I'm pretty sure the term utopia does not come from any Abrahamic religion. If
No, no, no. It
unless I'm
doesn't.
misremembering
No, no,
it.
no, no. Oh, sorry. Like maybe this was not clear. I mean, just like how the Abrahamic God is considered to be all loving, all great, all amazing, every time good.
Yeah,
That version, like
yeah,
similar to that, a society which represents that, right? A society which is all loving, a society which is all good, in which there no one is
yeah.
struggling, no one has problems, all of that. I mean, I'm not saying it's practically possible. I'm simply saying that that should be the like that should be the compass needle's north pole that we should work in the direction of. That is why we are trying to minimize societal evils. That is why we're trying to make a more humanitarian society, so that we
So
live in a society where everyone is a billionaire.
it's not even that it's not practically possible. It's that if it was practically possible, yeah, people would start committing suicide
Because they don't, because there will be no more
because
purpose.
yes, with zero suffering, there's not even just no more purpose, just zero suffering. There's just something about zero suffering that our brains just cannot handle because our brains are meant to tolerate some level of suffering. It's like exercise, right? You would think that because running around tires you and running around has like it increases your heart rate and it sort of breaks down your body. You would think that if you didn't do that, um, you would feel healthier, and that is actually in a lot of very old. If we go back quite a bit, that is actually true. Like a lot of the people who used to rest had a more successful life than the people who weren't. But then, as we look at today, we realize that that is not true. We need some level of physical activity, or our body just starts to disintegrate,
Right.
right? So, an ideal society is not a utopia in the sense that, in the definition you give, of course, some people just say that utopia is an ideal society. So, define it that way. If you define it that way, then it's a different thing. But in
It's
as
in defining the ideal. What is
insofar
the ideal?
as yeah,
The
insofar
disagreement comes
as
from there.
yeah, insofar as pain and suffering is considered, I would say that an ideal society is one where people are allowed to choose the suffering that they have to suffer rather than having to suffer through something. So if you are allowed to, for example, I would say that in a society wherein you're born with a disease and you have to live with that disease, I would say that that's less ideal than a society where you're born with a disease, but then you get to have a choice of whether to get rid of that disease or not to get rid of that disease.
Okay.
I would also say that a society wherein you have to get rid of that disease is also less ideal
Choice.
because the choice, yeah, the choice is what makes it ideal.
I can sort of get it. So, in Hinduism, Buddhism, and other Eastern faiths like Shintoism, there is a concept of Swarga or heaven, uh, which is not the goal, right? They say that if you do, let's say, a lot of good deeds in your life, then you go to heaven. Why do you go to
Yeah,
heaven? So that you can pay off those good deeds. The goal is to
yeah.
reach a sum total of zero so you can stop existing. That is uh, one of the highest states. I wouldn't say it is the highest state because I have come to figure out, like, more so recently, that within Hinduism there are like five more states beyond nirvana or moksha that some people attain to, or like that is the goal, but it's weird. So it deserves its own Hinduism specific conversation to dive into.
Mhm.
But yeah, in this
Sure.
context, um, I would say, see, it depends on how you define suffering, also, right? Maybe the pain that you decide to take isn't pain, but it is not suffering. Does that make sense? Or maybe suffering is always things that are enforced on you, which form a negative experience onto yourself. What do you think suffering is between those two? Or do you have a third, like, definition of suffering?
I generally tend to correlate suffering with a um, emotional or physical state of yeah, I would say I generally do tend to use it as quite a synonymous to pain.
Pain.
So if you do define it as pain that is levied upon you rather than pain that you choose to take, I guess you could say that.
I mean,
Yeah, I guess you could.
masochism exists. So there is the concept that certain people can want pain for themselves, and that does not count into suffering because they're having pleasure, they're
People
deriving pleasure out of it.
people do count it. People do count it towards suffering. Like I enjoy suffering. People just say that I enjoy suffering.
Even
Masochists say
yeah,
that.
yeah, even spicy
So
food. Spicy food is just technically a chemical burn on your
yeah,
tongue, yet you enjoy it.
yes,
So maybe it's more so how
true.
you interpret things that suffering exists. Like if you interpret something as suffering, then it is suffering. For example, a lot of celebrity kids are like, "Oh, my father had so much money. I had to live in his shadow my entire life." We make fun of them, but maybe they are interpreting that as suffering.
Yeah, potentially. So I guess yeah, if you do define suffering in that way, then maybe yeah.
I mean, then
Uh,
again, you can always make the argument that no matter what society you conjure up, suffering is such an essential part of being a human being or being an existing life form that the means of suffering will simply change. You will still have that emotion, you will still have that feeling, no matter what kind of society you make up, because something or the other will be interpreted as suffering just because we are
yeah.
like built that way.
Yeah. Well, that is something or other will be interpreted that way because we're built that way. In insofar as practicality is concerned, that is true. In real life, that has been true. So which definition of suffering are we using? Are we using the definition of suffering in that pain that is levied onto you without your consent, or just synonymous with pain? Which one did we use for the last
Um,
statement?
Yeah, it's the first one. I think the main point
being
is
levied on you without
yeah.
consent.
Suffering. I would land upon suffering is interpretation based, and there will
Mhm.
always exist something as suffering, just like there is something as pleasure. Like if pleasure will exist, suffering will also exist. Just like how when being exists, there is always the concept of nothing.
Yeah. So insofar as reality is concerned, that has been true. In that we have found, if a person is just left to themselves in like an isolated environment, and they're given the necessities and stuff like that, they do tend to suffer even then, right? Even a person who leads like a close to perfect life will find suffering in some part of their life.
Right.
So maybe, maybe we are, but maybe that is also healthy. Maybe if we eliminate all of it, then that won't be healthy. So,
I mean,
and it would just turn into a different kind of suffering, which
yeah,
would
I
just
think
be like, you know,
yeah, because suffering is like that shadow that follows you. If there is a sun, there will be a shadow, sort of thing, right? You cannot interpret as something as pleasurable if you do not have a concept of suffering within yourself. Then it will just be existence, right? You won't find pleasure if you do not have like a contrasting suffering concept within your head. And if there is a concept, that means that something or the other will be will anchor that concept into reality, so your experience of suffering will happen.
potentially, yeah. I could see myself. I'll think more on that. Um, and I'll let you know in the if I come on the next. I will come on the next time. I enjoyed this quite a lot. So I would like to come on, as long as you would be fine with it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Um, so yeah, I guess we could take that for the next time.
Sure.
Um, Now I would like to end this soon because I do have a meeting in like
Yeah,
5 minutes.
yeah,
So,
that works. That works. Let's just like
but this was
go through the like things that we ended up agreeing upon, and like things that we still
yeah.
have yet to discuss,
We,
or like we do not agree upon.
yeah. So what we did end up agreeing upon is the democratic society, how things are happening right now, which is like a quasi, no, I wouldn't say quasi, but a pseudo oligarchical model,
Right.
and that people don't realize their own power, and people should realize their own power, and they should try to bring about the change that they wish to see in the world. And that is the ideal way things should be in the world.
Yeah.
Another thing we ended up agreeing to was that, um, what was the second point we were discussing? I just had like a complete blank.
Before suffering, what did we discuss? We went on a lot of tangents, I guess. Um,
That is true.
at least we agree on like the democratic thing. The bottom up approach one also. That, but I think
Yeah,
that is covered.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
covered. Okay. And when we started the utopian society thing, what was the like larger point we were trying to discuss through it? The goal of a society or the goal of an individual within a society?
I mean, utopia is, of course, the goal of the society. And you were like, well, we should probably strive to. You stated that we should try to go towards a utopia. I was like, we shouldn't strive for a utopia because a utopia generally is defined as lack of pain and lack of suffering. And insofar as lack of pain is considered, lack of pain would probably be worse for the human. So, choice of which pain you want to have is better, rather than completely eliminating pain or completely eliminating non-pain. But both of them are
Yeah, that is
equally as bad.
like a topic that like whether or not that should be like choice of pain should be the ethic for society going forward is something that we
Yeah.
can discuss later. And due to our amazing tangents, we were also able to discover what suffering is the polarity that exists. It's the polarity of feeling of existence, in the sense that it is the south pole of the compass which points towards pleasure. Like the North Pole is pleasure, the South Pole is
True.
suffering, and
Suffering.
the state of
Yeah.
numbness or state of nothing is your basically your hedonic treadmill position in which you're like in a state of homeostasis. So if there is pleasure, there is going to be suffering, and if there is suffering, there will always be pleasure. As such, you ought to, as thinkers on this channel, I encourage everyone to think, even if it causes suffering, remember it will ultimately lead to sort of pleasure. The pleasure is getting those eureka movements. So I hope everyone enjoyed this conversation. Numbskull here will be back again, and we're going to go into even deeper topics. So all the three people who like these conversation, I hope you liked this one, and I'll see you guys in the next episode of the Apex Arena. Keep thinking, keep analyzing, keep questioning, and remember, as I always say, patterns. They're everywhere.